Hello and welcome to the first episodes of my tutorials on the Kurzweil Forte, stage piano, workstation, synthesizer, you name it. Today I will just give you a basic overview over the Forte, what all the modes do, all the buttons and sliders, as well as look at the back panel with all the connections there. So let's go. Just to start, with the recent Operation System 3.0, the Forte got the sequencer and now can be considered as a full-featured 16-track workstation as the PC3, for example, or the K25, K26. The first thing you want to do when you got the Forte or you want to just try it in store, go to global mode and to user type advanced. If you are in regular, then the Forte is like a 4-zone stage piano with limited access to effects or the synthesis. In advanced mode, you have the full features of the Forte, full access to the vast synthesis as well to the effects, and 16 zones in multi-mode instead of just 4 in regular mode. I would recommend to go to advanced mode to have the full features the Forte can offer. So let's have a look at the modes. In program mode, you play or program a single sound. They are sorted in categories like piano, e-piano, clef, organs, leads, and so on. Some programs even have splits, some strings or brass programs. Some have layers like piano and strings, piano and pad, or something like this. But it's basically there to program single sounds. A program can contain of up to 32 layers. Each of the layer can have its individual stereo multisample and or contain various building blocks like filters, shapers, oscillators and such. Program mode can also act in organ mode, which is printed in blue. If it's in organ mode, the so-called KB3 mode, then this LED lights in blue. Note that if you're in organ mode, the blue printings below the controllers applies to the organ. So we have the drawbars here, various Hammond controls here, like chorus, vibrato, percussion, the rotary switch and the distortion. I will cover program mode in detail in a later tutorial. In the meanwhile, I would strongly recommend to watch Geoff G's tutorials on the Kurzweil homepage, on the Kurzweil PC3 actually, and this tutorial on the program mode there pretty much applies to the Kurzweil Forte and is highly recommended. The next mode is multi-mode. In multi-mode you have 16 zones to stack up internal programs and or external devices like sound modules or other synthesizers. Each zone can control an internal sound, an external sound via DIN MIDI, or an external sound via USB-B, via USB MIDI. And each zone can have a mixture of this, so you can send it to internal and DIN MIDI, internal and USB, or to all three, or to none actually as well. I will cover multi-mode in detail in a separate tutorial as well. Global mode is where you set up the Forte globally, so you have a lot of options that affect it globally, so through all the programs, all the multis. You have two main pages. You have a master tune, master transpose. You have different effects mode. You set up the audio in level here. You have the user type. We also talked about that. The next page is the main 2 page. You have, for example, the velocity map there, the pressure map, intonation map. You have switch overrides. All of the 5 switches can be globally overwritten. You have the key velocity map and various other things. The next is the MIDI page, where you set up how the Forte reacts MIDI-wise globally. You have the song mode. I will cover that in a different tutorial, which is basically a sequencer, 16-track sequencer. You have the sample page, where it just lists how many space you have in your user sample space. You have tools like MIDI out and MIDI in. So you can just look what is happening, what is going out, and what is going in to the Forte if you have hooked a master keyboard, for example. You have the mixer page. There's also a tempo page to set up global tempo, global MIDI state, voices. It shows you how many voices you use. Actually, in KB3 Hammond mode, it doesn't use a voice at all. And other infos. With delete, you can delete any user objects. With reset, you can soft reset the Forte. If you want to do a reset or update your Forte to a new operation system, you always want to save all your objects so that you don't lose anything. Which brings us to storage mode. In storage mode, you store or load any kinds of objects that the Forte can handle. Either with a thumb drive or to a computer with the USB-B port. Note that the PC virtual drive has a file size limit of roughly 20 megabytes. So that could be limited for samples. It's no problem for any programs, multis or something like this. So I will just show you a save all. I have a thumb drive here. It literally vanishes in the Forte. You press store, you press all, and then it makes a save all, and you have a full backup of your Forte. Always do that before operation system updates or resets or something like that. So that are the basic modes. Let's have a look at the display of the Forte. The display is the center of the user interface of the Forte. On the bottom, you see what the 6 soft buttons do. If you are not in any edit mode, then the right button is edit. The next is the view mode. We'll cover that right now. Then in program mode, you can create a split or a quick layer with those 2 buttons. You have an octave down and up here, and these 2 buttons are actually switchable in global mode. Octave, ARP, so you have an ARP and a latch, and play record. I always stick to octave. What does the view button do? We are in program mode now. The first view is the favorite view, where you see the 10 favorites that are inside this bank, which is now 1. With the channel zone buttons, you switch favorite banks. Each bank can contain up to 10 programs or multis and be reloaded with these buttons. The next view is a list view. And the next view is like a fancy picture view. Note that you can switch channels with the channel zone buttons. And also in program mode, you have a 16-timbral workstation. On the top, you see what mode you are, the current transposition. If something goes into the MIDI DIN or out, then it lights up in green, and the MIDI channel. In multi-mode, you have this overview of your zones with informations on it. You have the favorite view as well, and the list view. On the right side is the category numpad section. It acts as a category selector. And if you press the keypad button, it's a numpad to dial in a specific number or value or whatever. With the user button here, the Forte will show you only your user sounds, leaving all the factory sounds out. This also applies to multis. So let's have a look at the controllers. From left you have the pitch wheel and the modulation wheel. the variation button which alters the sound, a tap tempo and transpose. You have 9 programmable buttons and sliders. In program mode, the sliders are pretty consistent. Mostly on the left there are the filters, envelope controls and effects. You find all the standard controller mappings in the manual on page 216. As said, in KB3 mode, the blueprintings apply to the controls. In multi-mode, all of the programmable buttons, sliders, wheels and pedals are freely assignable to any MIDI CC. This is the master section. You have a master EQ and a master compressor, as well as a master level slider. This slider is not programmable, it's just an analog level slider. The master EQ offers a high and a low shelving, as well as a semi-parametric mid-band. This is the master compressor. It's a one-knob compressor. It reduces the dynamic of the Forte and is highly usable to cut through a band better. On the back panel you have the headphone plug, which is on the front, on the Forte 8 actually. You have a power plug, a MIDI triplet in, through and out. Through can be switched to mirror the out. You have 2 pairs of audio outs, A and B. Any layer of the program or any zone in a multi can be routed through A or B. You have the audio in with applicable effects, which can be globally or overridden per multi as well. You have 5 pedal inputs, 2 CC pedals as well as 3 switch pedals, which support half pedaling as well. You have 2 USB plugs, a USB-A for a thumb drive like mine, or a USB-B to hook it to a computer for USB MIDI or data storage and loading. To navigate through menus, let's go to a menu now. You have the cursor buttons, as well as the data wheel, as well as data buttons. Note that if you press both of the value buttons, then you do a value jump. So in program mode, it jumps to the next category. At effects chains, it jumps to the next effects chain category, and so on. Coming back to the pedals, for half pedaling, I ended up with a Korg DS1 pedal, which works really well and is pretty sturdy. However, Kurzweil recently released their own pedals supporting half pedaling. So that's all for now for the first overview over the Forte. If you are interested or recently purchased the Forte, go to the Kurzweil Forte Facebook group, go to the Kurzweil Facebook page or kurzweil.com for the latest news and updates. You could go to Mastering Vast, which is the biggest Vast board on the web, the biggest Kurzweil board. And if you're German speaking like me, you could go to musikerboard.de. There is also a nice Kurzweil community there. So goodbye, see you for the next tutorial on the Kurzweil Forte 7 or 8.